Tashkolokolo. I'm your facilitator for this course. Now, to start with, when we talk about project, what is a project in your mind? Just by the way, in your lays, just in your little understanding. I don't need something that is a perfect response, but I just need your own understanding of a project. What do we mean by a project? What are we talking about when we talk about a project? To start with, Valerie, in your mind, what comes to your mind when you hear somebody talking about a project?
So it's something that's short term, that is taken when people are trying to like provide a service or product as a result. So it's like a short term task, so to say.
And usually this project, who does it? Who implements it? Who plans it? Where is it implemented?
So in various organizations by the project managers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, a project can be an activity that you do in a short term. For example, maybe there's a project to build a school. So there's a time limit that is set for that school to be built.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how I understand a project to be. It's something, an activity that you do that has a time limit, and it is usually short term.
Mm-hmm. And what other elements goes along? I'm asking both of you now. What other elements goes along in this short-term activity, this project, this kind of? I'm glad you brought in a good example of what kind of activity is it. Building a school.
Yes.
What elements goes in there when now this thing has to happen? What are other things that you have to see this thing happening, this project coming to realization? What I'm trying to say is, yes, the planners, they say, here's the project that we want to do. Here's an
Yes.
activity according to your definition of it that we have to do. For it to kickstart, what is it that we need to see there to have to make sure that that project takes off the ground? For example, if I want to go to Cape Town
Yes.
from Pretoria here, while I'm planning, I know going to Cape Town I won't walk. I need either a transport, a road transport to get there. So in my planning, I'm going to make sure that I look at my budget to make sure that I decide which kind of transportation I'm going to use, which suits my pocket. And when I get there, perhaps I don't know anyone. I must think of accommodation as well. Think of my food there and so on and so on until I come back. Those are things that goes into my traveling. You get my point.
Yes.
So now, here's the school that is planned to be built. What is it that goes in there to make sure that that project comes to existence or comes to pass?
You need resources.
Mm-hmm.
You also need to have a target, and then you need to know the manpower. For example, if you're going to need manpower,
Mm.
and obviously the budget.
One more thing that I can add is the what is it, the project tracker, because I know that most projects you need to know what's going on. not only from a budget perspective, but in terms of the work that's happening, like I think it's called a project charter, right? If I'm so you need that to see what you're planning, from which time frame, and then if you are tracking according to what needs to be done at what specific time. Yes.
Good. I'm very happy about the way things are coming to the picture now, in terms of understanding when we talk about the project and so on and so on. Because in most instances, if we don't have this understanding, how can we then implement it? And if we're the recipients of this project in a particular community, how can we say this project is going well, this project is going to be finalized on time and so on and so on, if we don't have this understanding? So if we have got this kind of understanding, it means we are able now to even to plan it properly. Because implementation is a phase that comes after the planning phase has been done. Now, the second one is program or programs. Well, what project, you came clearly to indicate what it is. In your understanding, what is a program?
Okay, a program is almost the same as the project. So it is also a set of activities, but it is different from the project because it takes longer. For example, I will give an example with the EPWP programs. So they it's like they don't even end. They keep extending the period because it is not a short-term thing. It takes longer. So within a program, you can have a project.
Okay. Or within a program can have a project.
Yes, that's what I believe. For example, if it is EPWP, they may have a set of different projects that they are doing. For example, their project could be filling up potholes.
Okay. So within that EPWP, you've got different projects happening there.
Yes.
Okay. Valerie?
So a program is something that is related to projects. So it's like many different projects that make up the program, basically. It's like many different activities, or like it's something that's related to the projects. Yes. That's how I understand the definition of a program. Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad about your explanations, both of you. Now let's now move a little bit further to the third concept, development. I said to you, development is a broader term that embraces projects and programs. In other words, we use these two, projects and programs, to implement development in a particular area, given area. But then, in your understanding, when we talk about development, we hear this word timeously every now and then. Sometimes, if we can watch a TV, you listen to a particular radio station, you read a particular article and whatever, you cannot spend a day without hearing the word development. You listen to somebody giving a speech, a politician, they will be talking about development. So it's a very common and popular concept that is spoken by everybody. So in your mind, when we talk about development, what comes to your mind?
Creating, or growing something, progressing something, changing something. That's development. Yeah.
If I hear you well, development must bring about change into somebody's life or other people's life.
Yes, change,
Yeah.
progress, you know, those are all the components of development.
Development, okay. Litabo, are you in
Yes,
agreement?
I agree with Valerie. It's when you bring something positive. For example, when you are developing a community, you are bringing in change. You are bringing in something positive.
Okay, that's perfect then. So before we get deeper, I just want to bring in a little bit of the flesh to what you already indicated here. It's not something far away from what you guys said, but I just want to bring in to put more flesh into it. Just trying to project something. I wonder whether I will win, but I'm hoping. I projected something. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we are talking about projects and programs as instruments of development. You recall a minute or 2 minutes, some minutes, few minutes ago, I indicated to you development. We take it as a broader concept that need to be implemented. And as we were defining this development, you indicated that it's a transformation of some kind. So it's something that brings about transformation or change in people's life. So now, for that development to happen, whatever kind of development to happen, we then need to have tools or instruments. And you correctly indicated that projects and programs are the set of activities that will assist us in that regard. So this is what we refer to as the development when we use these tools to assist us. There are some guys who wrote something with regard to trying to make us understand these projects and programs and so on and so on. Casworth and Franks, way back in 1993, they provided us with a very basic definition of the term project. They are saying a project is the investment of capital in a time-bound intervention to create productive assets. When you look at the way they coined this definition, they talk of its investment of capital. I insisted to you to bring about some elements which are involved when we talk about projects and programs. And you clearly indicated that we need to have finances, we need to have people, and so on and so on. When we talk about capital, we are talking about the budget which has been made available in order to implement this thing. And you also indicated it's time bound. We need to have time frames. So we cannot have a project without having the budget, the finances. We need to have those finances. And when we have finances, we cannot have an open and what we call and what is, I'm looking for this simplest complex, I mean term, open-ended kind of a project, which we don't know when is it going to finish. You know, it must have a time frame, as you indicated. So once we have that, what do we anticipate to gain at the end of that project? We must have something in mind. Let's go back to Litabo's example of a school. when that project is being planned, in the mind of the planners, they see a finished school standing somewhere in a particular community. And once that school is there, now we have achieved, now we've got an asset in the community. So it will remain there. So when you look at this definition, it's a useful one because it is so deliberately broad. It doesn't close us in. It allows us to can move beyond that understanding, you know, and it allows us to interpret the word capital as referring to both human resources, which include people's investment, in inventiveness and energy, and physical resources, including financial resources. You correctly indicated that. We can have the budget, we can have the money, but if we don't have the human resources, perhaps, let me just come back to you guys. When we have human resources in a project, what categories of these people do we need in a project? In other words, who are these people? Who does what in this between these people who are there in a project? Who does what? I just want to give me a breakdown of just an understanding of when we have a project, we have got these people. Obviously, they're not going to do the same work. They don't have the same expertise. They differ. So I want you to give me that in our discussion. Who are these people that we need in a particular project as the resources for the project to happen?
So firstly, we would need the project manager, who is the main person who will be sort of like tracking and governing what's going on throughout or from start to finish. And then the finance managers from a budget perspective to ensure that the relevant funds are available and the relevant resources are paid for. And then, yeah, and all the specialists depending on what the project is on, as well as, yeah, the specialists will be the ones who are getting the materials for whatever is required and ensuring that it's being implemented according to whatever is being required on the project. Yeah.
Perfect. Lebukang, welcome. Hi, Lebukang. Lebukang, are you there? Okay. Valer, what's your take? Oh, not Valer, man. I'm sorry, Litab.
Okay.
Sorry, Valer. You have
No
given
problem.
us your opinion as well. Litab, what's your take?
Okay, the people that we will need for a project, Valerie has already mentioned most of them, like the project manager.
She's taken everything, eh?
Yes. But we are also going to need the team members, the team who will be doing the project. So the people who will be doing the groundwork. So apart from the project manager, the person who handles finances and other team members, we are also going to need stakeholders, people that you are going to have a partnership with, people are going to assist you with the project. So yes, I was just adding on to Valerie's answer.
Quite correct. And when we look at the budget made for that particular project, let's go back to your own example, Litabo, of a school. How do we pay the service provider? Do we pay the service provider everything at a go on the start of the project? What's your understanding? How do we? I'm asking both of you. How do we pay the service provider, people who will be building that particular school?
So that will be done in phases. So depending on which phase is being completed, the payments will go through according to whatever phase has been completed. So if in the initial phase, it was that, okay, the foundation needs to be laid out and then all of the resources that are needed for that foundation from the concrete, cement, etc. Once that initial phase is completed, then payment can be made for the initial phase. So when the second phase starts, same thing. So it's done in like phases along the project. Yeah.
Any addition, Letabo?
No, I agree with her, because if you give them all the money in one go, that is where you get problems. That is where you get people disappearing with the money, and then they do not even finish the project. So that is why it is paid in different phases.
Have you ever observed many slabs in the communities for RDP houses? Have you seen that? You see a slab for over 5 years is still there, and there is the contractor is no longer there.
Yes.
You have seen that.
Yes, I have.
And you when you ask questions, what was the reason given for that?
They gave a person a tender and paid them the full amount, and yeah, they did part
And
of
the
the work
person,
or not at all, and then just took the money.
Disappear.
and the person just vanished.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm bringing this as an example of what you are explaining. To say if you pay a person everything beforehand, the chances are that person might not finish the project. So these things, they need to be understood, ladies, so that if you happen to be a project manager one day, you have this in mind that, hey, these things are there, they might happen. Litabo, Lebogang, are you there? Hi, Lebogang.
Hello, sir. I'm there.
Please join us. We're having a very nice discussion here.
But I'm having flu.
Yeah, I can hear. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Get well soon, eh? So now, in the definition that I gave, Casworth and Frank's definition, I mentioned the issues of, at the end of it, we'll have this project will create what we call productive assets. And I gave an example that asset is something that is a result of the overall implementation of the project. So it's an output, so to say. It's something that you can take a person and say, let me go and show you where the money goes or where the money went. And then you say, this is where the money went. And the person will see now that school, beautiful school built there, which people are ready to can enter and start utilizing it. So that is what we call the asset, and it needs to be taken care of. So this definition also allows for actions by individuals, by groups of individuals, by communities, societies, and as a whole. Now, the question is that I want us to look at. I believe in your life, you have observed projects being implemented somewhere. And now, by that definition, we expect to see individuals, groups, community members, society as a whole getting involved. For example, let's take, for example, about Atteridgeville here in Pretoria. Let's say there's a project that needs to be implemented there. I think one which we all know. In the city center here, there is this bus transit project. What do they call it, by the way? That bus project, is it Reavaya? Arieng, which one? Reavaya is the Joburg one. This one is Arieng. Am I correct? Help me out. Is it
Yes.
Aryan?
Yes.
Yes. When that project was initiated by the city of Tshwane, if it was implemented correctly, it was supposed to include everybody who stays in the city. Everybody who is under Tshwane, city of Tshwane, a metropolitan municipality, was supposed to participate. And other projects that you might have seen where you stay, guys. So now my question to you is, when these projects are being implemented, are we as communities, societies, individuals, groups, are we invited to participate in the implementation of those projects? And if we're invited, at what level? Are we invited? Valerie, what is your experience?
No, I don't think I've experienced being invited to any of these projects, eh? But if I was to be invited, it would be before or just at the start of the or the initiation phase of the project, right? Before everything has started, before the work has started, and then as well as the end where we get to use whatever whatever development was taking place during the project. Yeah.
Mm, mm. And precisely before you leave, Valerie, what do you think makes it so critically important to start participating from the initiation part?
Because then you get to be involved in the development process, and in some instances, if it's something like building a school, then it creates like employment opportunities, it creates engagement from the community, it creates a lot of growth for the community, especially when we are invited to participate from the project. Yes.
I'm happy to hear that. Libukhang, I know you're coughing, man, and it breaks my heart. Just half a minute contribution. What do you think about the community being invited to participate in a project?
I think communities get involved or get invited as the last phase of the project because when they implement or start planning the project, I think they get invited. They are just being told, this is the project, this is what we are going to do.
Lita, your take.
Okay, I also, most of the time when there's a project, the community is not included or they are barely included. They only call them at last minute because they need manpower. But if they were to be included from the planning of the project to the implementation and until they get started with the project, it would mean that the community get a chance to give their input, to participate, because they are already on the ground. They know what they need. So if they are involved from the beginning, they have some sort of a sense of responsibility. So they want to see the project progress. They want to see growth because they were there from the beginning.
And the likelihood that they can, after the project has been finalized and handed over to the community, they will take care of that project.
Yes, because they've put in their hard work into the project.
Yo, I appreciate that. And the thing that comes to my mind when we're discussing this thing is that, are we being invited to participate in reality? Because what we are saying is correct, but are we being invited?
No.
let's pretend they don't hear us. These people who were supposed to invite us, they don't hear us. Why are they shying away from inviting us? What are they afraid of? We're just talking so softly. They don't hear us.
Okay, most of the time they don't involve the community because there is some sort of corruption happening within the project. So they want to hire their own people, they want to involve their own families, they want to share the money. So it's all about politics and corruption. So that's my take.
Lebogang, do you agree with Litau that being the reason that people are not invited? On the news today, they were saying there's one department, I just forgot which department is it, in Limpopo province. One department where there are some people who went to the premier to say there's corruption happening there, which involves the HOD and some senior managers. They've hired their own relatives in a particular project. So when you go there and take stock, only their relatives are working there. They got a tender of millions for that matter, and so on and so on. So now, as I speak to you, they were saying, sorry, investigation is underway, investigating the HOD and these senior managers who are implicated in the project. So those are some of the things that are happening, you know. Yeah. So this means that a project can refer to a vast array of development initiatives. And some of these initiatives that we're talking about here, you have already mentioned them. You know, from the design to enhance potential in specific groups, perhaps creating small-scale enterprises for the rural poor. Because when a project comes, as I indicated, that is a tool that assists in terms of implementing development. We expect it to assist, to uplift the lives of the people on the ground. And you create a platform for these people to can start doing something for themselves. As I'm saying this, I'm talking to you about this. One thing that comes to my mind is that this program that government has, the so-called the 350, I don't know its correct name, but where people are given 350 per month. It's a program that is named as a poverty what do you call this? Poverty alleviation program. I think it's called something of that sort. Now, in your mind, do you think if development project can be initiated to assist people to start something, to create something, some small scale enterprises, which we talk about here, small scale businesses. It might be something very small, but knowing that at the end of the day, this person will be able to make a little bit of profit, which will create some sort of sustainability in terms of making a living with your family. When you look at this kind of development and look at this program that government is giving people 350 rands per month, which one do you think is more sustainable? The giving of 350 rands per month, or assisting people to start up something to become entrepreneurs, small businesses? That might, perhaps, if you are a hard worker and you are trying by all means to do it the right way, you can end up being a big business. Which one do you think is sustainable? This development we're talking about here, Valerie.
I think it'll be more sustainable to help people start their own small businesses or ways to create their own income as compared to just giving them money. Because once you empower people to create their own income, then it alleviates the whole unemployment and poverty line that we're in. And then that way it also, it empowers the people, it grows the communities, unlike just giving away money, which doesn't develop them in any way. Yeah.
Okay. Libukang, what's your view?
I also think the most sustainable way is to help them start something of their own, because 350 is a small money, and if you can look at the economy now, with 350 you can't do anything. Like, it can't even buy grocery, like a decent grocery. So I think it's useless to give people such a small money and think you are empowering them. I think it's best to help them start something, or at least with those 350s that they are giving away, they should start some industries where they can employ people at least.
I get you. I get you. Let's have.
Okay, I also agree with my fellow students, because when you give people money, when you give them the 350, they become dependent on the government. So they cannot stand on their own. But then when you encourage them to be entrepreneurs, they can employ more people, they can create more job opportunities, and then that is more sustainable, because it brings something positive to the community and it makes them independent. So giving them just giving them 350 means that the taxpayers are suffering. But when they are entrepreneurs, it means more tax is being paid.
Thanks for those input, guys. And I'm bringing this to our discussion because it's one of the development that government is thinking they're doing to our people, and we need to critically look at it in a very sharp eye, so that tomorrow, if we have got opportunities to can influence the situation, we do that with pride, to say, we think we can do it this way than this way. So these guys, they further point out that a project can be distinguished from any other type of investment on the following grounds. These are some of the characteristics that comes out of a project that I'm now trying to bring into our discussion here. Number one is that the investment is outside the scope of the normal day-to-day or a year-to-year expenditure and effort. It is something that is specific for a particular project. So it takes that company, that government who wants to do that kind of a project, a good opportunity for them to create something which is different from the rest. And it takes place over a particular time, as you indicated. It's time bound. There are time frames. We cannot let it be and have an open-ended kind of an approach. We must make sure that this thing has got a time frame to say, if it's a 3-year project, by the end of the 3rd year, this project must be completed. It is intended to achieve a specific objective or set of objectives. Why? Because if it's a school, that's an objective, to build a school. And sometimes, it's very funny. You find that the budget is exhausted, but the project is still there. And you ask yourself, people who planned this project, didn't they do calculations? Because when the project is planned, we want to build a school. How many classes do you want in that particular school in the first place? Now we need about 28 classrooms. I'm just giving an example. With an admin block, with a laboratory, with a library, and all those things that are needed, necessities which are needed for a school to function properly. Now they will do calculations. How much will this cost us? How much will this cost us? How much will this cost? And there's a projection. Projection is to say, if it's a 3-year project, next year prices of building materials will go up. Now let us project it to say they will go up by 20%. Then we make it 20%. And then we find that by next year, the materials are gone by maybe 5 or 8%. Now we are still safe. On the third year, we make a projection as well, up until to the end. So when the finances, the budget is exhausted, but the project is not yet finished, what might be the problem, ladies? What do you think went wrong there? Because this is calculated very well. Expertise, they come and sit down. Finance people, they come and sit down. Project people, they come and sit down. Quantity surveyors, they come and sit down and calculate materials and so on and so on. They get all those people to come and calculate this thing. But if it happens that you find that a budget is exhausted before the project is finished, what do you think might have went wrong there in that instance? Valer, what do you think might have went wrong there?
I think during the planning or the forecasting phase, they might have underestimated that certain costs or other costs may have come up during the implementation of the project, right? So it's either it wasn't budgeted for properly, or some unexpected expenses came up, or there was a delay in which materials or something that resulted in the project taking longer. And when it takes longer, it means that the expenses are more because you need to retain the resources which are being paid for that project for a longer period as compared to what was budgeted for or forecasted for. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Lubukang.
Okay, sometimes it may be the issue of corruption or the people they give the tenders to those projects. You find that people, when they are given tenders, they tend to spend the money that was given for the project, and then they spend it for their own personal use than the project. Then the project the budget get exhausted on the way before finishing work because the money was spent carelessly.
Okay. Litau.
Okay, I believe that a budget can be exhausted because of poor planning. When they were planning the project, they made unrealistic plans, like things that they could not even achieve on the budget. So it can also be caused by irresponsible spending. For example, they use a supplier which is more expensive instead of comparing prices, instead of finding different quotations. So yeah, I believe that's what can cause an exhaustion of a budget.
Okay. I'm raising this, ladies, because I anticipate tomorrow it might be project managers. Tomorrow it might be responsible for this. So you must have this in mind that sometimes these things happen. How can we try to avert them? You know, because if that happens, it means the project won't be finished. You need to go back to Treasury and ask for additional funding and which might not be possible for treasury to give you additional funding. It needs a lot of motivation. They will ask you a lot of questions which might, at the end of the day, not be answered appropriately. So you must have this in your mind when you plan. There is this thing called risk management. What is the risk manager's the responsibility in a project? What does the risk manager does in a project? Or risk officer if there's no manager? Do you know a risk manager or risk officer?
Yeah, it's the people who check and identify any potential risks that might happen during any phase of the project. So they sort of like they can analyze and project where possible risk may arise and then help to avoid that.
And it's important to have that kind of a person in the project, né?
Yes.
So that project officer, project manager should mitigate the risks in a project so that there are no delays. Because if there are risks, one of the risks is to exhaust the budget before the project is finished. That's a risk. One of the risks is that it's a 3-year project. The rain might come and prevent the contractor to continue working in a project. And when that happens, it means you have to mitigate that risk. What do we do now? The project was stalled for almost a month because it was raining heavily. So work could not continue. Then the risk manager or the risk officer must come up with these mitigation strategies to see to it that at least we still catch up. I'm just making addition to what Valerie you were indicating. Now, let's look at the programs now. We're dealing with the project. Let's look at the programs. Programs are similar to projects. You already gave us your own definition. So they are similar in the sense with projects in the sense that they are sets of activities. And you brought this as well. And they are designed to facilitate the achievement of specific objectives, but generally on a larger scale. And you correctly indicated that projects are on the smaller scale, but when you look at the projects, it's on the larger scale and over a longer period of time. So I wonder whether it was who between the two of you who indicated that it might be 5 years or whatever period, but the projects can be anything less than 5 to 2 years, depending on how big is that project. However, a program tends to be more abstract in the form and usually has a wider geographic spread. How can when we talk about larger geographic spread, what comes to your mind? What example can you give as a project? As a program that is huge, it's large, it takes a bigger place, it is implemented in a bigger place. How can you, as an example, what can you give as a program? One of you indicated one, gave us one when you were defining it. Yes, Litab.
Yes, it was me. I gave an example of the EPWP program because it is on a larger scale. It is national. It is not like a project. A project like is like a school that is local. So the EPWP program is national. It happens everywhere in in the country.
I like that. I like that explanation. Precisely that. I like that because when it happens nationally, it means now all the provinces must implement it. All the municipalities must, the districts, municipalities must implement it. All the local municipalities must implement it. So it is at a larger scale, precisely, and that's what I was hoping to get. Thank you so much for that. Projects, programs, as you indicated, at that larger scale. Now we'll want to look at what is the relationship between programs and policy and planning. How do they relate along the way? You know, projects and programs are usually subsections of broader national development plans that aim to bring about some of other desired change in a state of community. Valerie and Litabo, are you familiar with what we call National Development Plan that government came up with way back in 2011? Are you familiar with that plan? Not
No.
to know the content, but to know that it exists.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Litabo, have you ever heard about National Development Plan? It's a government plan, a huge one.
So I didn't know about it, but I think I learned about it in one of the modules that I did. So that was the first time I heard about it.
And then in your experience when you were hearing about it, what did they say it contains there?
They said it is a plan that is, so there are different categories, but categories of things that the government aims to achieve by 2030.
Quite correct. Quite correct. It is popularly known as NDP, but NDP is an abbreviation, which means National Development Plan. In this plan, all the departments, all national departments, they are given responsibilities to implement something on their departments. And time frames is that by 2030, they must have achieved all those plans. So it's a huge plan. It's a very big plan. It's a big plan. So that's what we refer to as a broad plan, broad national plan. So when we look at projects and programs, they are trying to achieve what is in that big plan, which is the NDP. Sorry, it was planned, initiated, drafted, and launched in 2011, long time ago, 2011. So by 2030, we expect most of all the plans which are in each department to have been achieved. For example, let's take Department of Health. One of the things which are there is to fight these diseases, your TB, your HIV, all these things. They must make sure that they try to work so hard to fight the spread of those diseases, so that we don't see new infections taking place on the issue on the side of TB. They must do awareness campaigns, treat those ones who are infected already, for them to get to be healed. You remember, TB can be cured, so that we don't have new cases where people are infected by TB and so on and so on. Those are some of the objectives on the side of the health department. So by 2030, there's a target that has been put there, that we want to see this thing going down by this percentage and so on and so on. So project and plan and programs, they are there. There are subsections to implement the broader plan, which is the National Development Plan in the side of government. Plans in turn are informed by national development policies, which are broad ideologically and normative statements in which leaders of a particular state set out their vision of an ideal society. When you look at how this is done, you'll have to have policies. What are policies? I'm triggering your mind now. What are policies? When you talk about the policy, what's the policy? Valer, what's a policy?
Policy is more like what is it? A set of rules or guidelines that are used for something specific. Yeah, so it's sort of like it's a rule or a guideline. Yeah.
And when we talk about a guideline, what does a guideline do? It's guiding.
Yeah, it's guiding you in terms of what to do to get.
Okay.
It guides you in terms of what to do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Litabo, have you got a different view or edition?
No, I agree with Valerie.
Okay. So on top there, nationally, I'm talking about government now. Nationally, they come up with these policies, develop these policies, and then when it goes to the provinces and the local municipalities and so on and so on, national will send these policies there, and those ones will look at the policies and customize those policies to suit their respective provinces, so that they are able to implement them, and so on and so on. Same applies with programs. Programs are developed nationally, but projects are found at the local sphere in the provinces. What it means is that you remember when you were defining programs and projects, we said a program's huge, it's broad, it's a national thing. The example that Letabo gave about EPWP, National Department of Public Works, they developed that program, and then they send it to provinces with the budget. So provinces with municipalities and districts, they now started now to work on how do we implement this. They implemented it. So that's how it functioned. That's how it worked in that way. And then ultimately, they are able to achieve that particular goal that is there. So the relationship between policy, plans, programs, and projects can be illustrated by a practical example. The practical example that I want to give you is with regard to the NDP as something which was planned nationally. The South African government published its vision, the National Development Plan. And this plan states and explains the vision and goals of government. And they are the ones who said, okay, what we need to want to see happening by 2030. And then for a vision to be implemented, enabling policies are required, which give more details and ideals with different specific aspects of the vision. For instance, health, education, small enterprises development, rural development, and so on and so on. When you look at these programs, you cannot, as Valerie indicated that, and both of you agreed, when we talk about what do you call this? The policy is a guideline, and you correctly, both of you, agreed on that. It's a guideline which guides in the government in terms of implementation of the National Development Plan. Now, they give example. I'm giving you example of these departments here: health, education, and so on and so on. Each of these departments has indicated that on the National Development Plan, they have got a stake there. They're given mandate. Now they come down in their departments. Health will come back to the department because that plan sits with the presidency. It resides in the presidency office. There's a department called monitoring and evaluation there. That's where National Development Plan belongs. So now each department, they go there and get that copy. And then it's a volume. When they come back with that volume, they have to go through it and went straight to where their department is. Their chapters. So each department is a chapter. For example, Department of Health will have their own chapter. Let's say it's chapter 3. They'll go to chapter 3. Then they'll get all these things written there as a plan for their department. Then they start to develop a program. So if it was Department of Public Works, that's where now that plan later was talking about comes out from. Then they have that plan. Say this is the plan, EPWP. Now it has to be implemented nationally. What was the aim of that EPWP? What did they want to? Government wanted to achieve there? What does it do actually? What kind of people is it appointing there or employing? If you have come closer to it, what does it do? What is its main objective to be implemented there? Just not the correct answers that I'm looking for. Just for your I'm seeking for your understanding, a little bit of understanding. What does it do when you observe it being implemented? Lita.
I think it was implemented to eradicate poverty. I was going to say, yes, I was going to say to give employment to the youth, but I've also realized that they also hire older people.
So the correct one should be.
Yes, the main aim was to eradicate poverty.
And that's the very, this is a measure, that's a measure objective. That's a measure objective. Valerie, have you got the addition?
No addition from my side. I'm happy with the points that were made.
Okay. So that's basically how it happens. And all such policies are designed to meet the goals of the vision. Which vision? National Development Plan. So whatever policy which is to be developed, it should focus on meeting that goal, achieving those goals. Of course, meet the requirements of the national constitution as well. And the good thing is that, let's say, ladies, in South Africa, it is not allowed to develop a policy or any piece of legislation which is different, which contradict the constitution. Everything that we develop in the form of legislation, policy, what it must not fight the constitution. It must remain to support the constitution at all times. At all times. So that is something that you have to guard against. So it must also address the issues that the constitution raises in terms of developing the nation. So all the policies that are developed, they must sort of meet the goals of the vision, which is the National Development Plan, as well as making sure that you meet the requirements of the Constitution. And yet policies are simply the legal frameworks which give authority to do things in a pursuit of the vision and goals set out in the national vision. So we channel everything towards that end. And it's critical for us to understand that part of it. And understanding that helps in terms of knowing that now we are on the right track in terms of moving forward. So the relationship that exists between projects, programs, policy, and whatever, it resides on the understanding by policymakers when they're developing those policies to say, these policies are guidelines going to assist us to achieve what we want to achieve in that regard. Then government departments translate policies into plans and the plans into programs. Programs set tangible, doable targets. They are any good. You see the flow here, ladies. You see the flow here. All departments, as indicated, they look at the plan. I mean, at their policies, and then take those policies and come up with plans. Now this becomes a little bit at a lower scale. Then they have those plans and plans now into programs. You know, when you look at this flow of the process, it gives you an understanding that if indeed these things were done this way correctly, South Africa will be gone by, in terms of development, it will be gone. So programs set tangible and doable targets. If they, in terms of these targets, you say, we want to achieve 1, 2, 3 by this time. You can't set, in the planning processes, ladies, you must have targets to say, within the next 12 months, this is what we want to achieve. And then when the 12 months elapse, you look back and say, did we manage to achieve all of these things that we wanted to achieve as targets? If not, what was the problem? You reflect and do some corrective measures so that come the next 12 years, you don't do the same mistake. Because targets in your plans go along with the budget. As I indicated earlier on, when you're planning the projects and all of these things, it goes with the budget. You have to make calculations, do calculations, so that you achieve what you are planning to do. And programs are usually implemented through a smaller area of local development projects. You know, so these guys, Casworth and friends, use the following practical example to illustrate the difference between projects and programs. They point out that the international drinking water supply and sanitation decade, which had its main objective to provide all people with access to safe water and sanitation facilities, led to countries embarking on various programs made up of numerous projects. What happens here, ladies, is that we are an affiliate, as South Africa, we are an affiliate to the international what do you call these things now? Bodies. Like if there is the Department of Health here at home, there is a World Health Organization internationally. So we are an affiliate to that organization. So whatever they decide, they set goals there, which they expect countries of the world to implement. So now the example is given here with drinking water supply and sanitation things, which is part of our Department for Water Affairs and Sanitation. Now, there's a goal that has been set by the United Nations to say, by this time, we expect all the countries to have done 1, 2, 3 in terms of addressing issues of water scarcity and sanitation, and so on and so on. So they expect all countries to come to a point where they say, yes, now we have made it, we have achieved this target, and so on and so on. So that happens to all other departments that we have in South Africa. Programs were formulated consisting of series of activities such as surveys of existing facilities, resource potential, procurement, necessary equipment for drilling and construction, widespread health, education, training of skilled personnel, and so on and so on. What happens is that when you have got a project that you have to do, a program that you have to do somewhere, before implementation, you have to do some assessments. And that assessments will determine in terms of what are the resources needed there. Let's take example, the Department of Human Settlements, Housing. They want to build houses somewhere in KZN, for example. I'm just giving KZN because they always face challenges in terms of the landscape there. There's a lot of land which is not flat. You might have seen during the floods that the people, the way they build their houses is very difficult to reach there. You have to find some means and ways to get up the hill where these people are staying to build their RDP house up there. So in that instance, you plan to build about 500 units of RDP houses in that particular area where the land is not flat. You have to go up the mountain there, up the hill there, and build those houses there. What then must happen? You have to do an assessment. Go there and do your research, and so on and so on. Here in Gauteng, the land is flat, but we have got a lot of mines here. A lot of mines. Some of the land which seem to be vacant, you cannot build and allow people to settle there because it's dangerous. Some of the land is dolomite, so you have to do assessments to make sure that people are safe in those areas and so on and so on. Within programs such as these, various projects were designed in the case of water supply, the construction of well for village, community would constitute a project, as would the construction of dam and pipeline for urban supply. Now, this is to show that projects are not the same. They cannot be the same based on the different areas where our people are staying. It won't be the same. So it will differ. And as they differ, you find that the approach that is going to be used won't be the same when implementing those programs as well as projects. It can be difficult at times to distinguish between projects and programs since they share many characteristics. As I indicated earlier on when we started, that some of the characteristics are similar between the projects and the programs. But the good thing is that we both have the understanding that programs are broader and projects are smaller. The important distinction is that programs are diverse sets of activities over a long period designed to attain certain objectives, while projects have a defined starting and finishing time. Valerie, when did we start with implementing the EPWP? When was it started to be implemented? Later we can come on board as well to assist. When was it started? If you remember. Do you have an idea, Litau?
No, I can't remember.
I'm deliberately asking you this question, ladies, for you to understand that programs are of longer period. But if I was asking you a particular project, like the one that I spoke about for the Ariyeng bus project, it was for a shorter term period. That was a project. So you can see that they differ in terms of that. We've got a starting and finishing time in terms of the project, but for the program, it's an open-ended. Even now, it is still there. It is still there. They still use it to assist in terms of trying to fight these issues of poverty and job creation and so on and so on. Projects also tend to be location specific. Location specific. Litaba, I think if I'm not mistaken, you are the one who said a project like a school, it has got a particular place where it's going to be built. But when you talk about the program, it's national. Am I correct, Litaba? Was it you, ne?
Yes.
So this is one of the issues that shows us how different the two are. We cannot bring them together. They are so different in terms of that, and the similarities are there, but they are very few. And what is important to note is that the approach to project and program planning is similar when you're planning it on top there. But the implementation part, that's where we have got the differences that comes into play. And sometimes when you look at the project part, the way we plan it, because it's a short period, it is complicated than the program. Why this one is complicated, the project? What do you think is the reason why to plan the project it becomes complicated, a little bit difficult than the program? Why do you think is the reason? Valerie, what do you have in mind?
Oh, I'm not quite too sure on this one.
Just give me what comes to your mind. I don't need a perfect answer.
So to plan for a program, it's a bit more difficult because of the scale of it, right? It's very large, and you don't have a definitive start and finish. So you can plan for it to a certain point, but you can't plan for it indefinitely. Whereas on a project, it's got a start and finish, and you're able to, plan for everything for all of the phases, start to finish. So I think, yeah, I'm not sure if that's correct.
Yeah, there's no correct and right answer.
Okay.
As long as you are able to substantiate your response, that's fine.
Okay.
So don't stress about that. Even when you're writing for an assignment or exam, as long as you substantiate your answer, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to this one.
Okay.
Tabo, what's your take?
Yo. This one is difficult.
It's difficult, ne?
Yes.
Just to build upon what Valerie indicated, when you plan for a project, you put a lot of things which has to happen in a short space of time. I'm saying a lot of things because you have to be specific in terms of the budget, in terms of the resources. Resources might be finances as well as human resources and so on and so on. All those things, they must come together for that project to happen. In a program, it's something that has to take a longer period than the project. It's going to, you plan for something which might take 5 years, for example, and you have to put everything together there for that thing to take shape, and for the implementers to be able to implement it properly. Because if planning is not done correctly, you could also confuse the implementers. They will struggle to come up with a proper implementation system that will yield the results that which are needed. So there's nothing complicated if things are planned well. As they say, they say if you don't plan, you plan to fail, and vice versa. Now, the techniques used to manage the entire planning process, ranging from obtaining data. That's very important. Why do you think it's important to obtain data before you plan? You start with the planning. You go all out and do research. Why is it important to collect information?
Because that will help you plan better based on, let's say, previous projects, based on the information that you have. And yeah, it helps the planning process much easier once you have data to work with.
Mm. And some of the data stays with the communities. Né? For example, where Litabo, you said they must go and build a school. Who said that community need a school? And let me rephrase my question. Who must indicate the need of that particular community? When community A says, no, here we must build a school, who must indicate that in this particular area, this is what we need? Is it the planners or the community?
It is the community.
So that's why I'm saying data should also come from the community. They should be communicated. You remember when we started, we spoke about participation, community participation, involvement of the society and the community at large. That's where they come in here. They give their preferences to say, yes, we are happy that government has come to us to ask us they've now remembered us in terms of the development, but this is what we want. But my last question to you before we close, do you think communities are given that particular opportunity to ask, I mean, to make input as for what they want as a development in their areas?
Not often, or not at all, actually.
Litab?
Yes, I agree with Valerie. In most cases, they are not given the opportunity.
So that becomes a problem. That's where now we have got the white elephants. You build something where the community did not want, they don't use it. At the end of the day, they vandalize it because they did not consent to what you said you want to develop in their area. So it's necessary to, when you're collecting data, you go out there and collect even from those people. To the final ex post evaluation of the implementation of both projects and programs. So this one is similar for both programs and the projects. You have to evaluate how things are going. Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? Did it go well? If not, where did we go wrong? Then it can make corrections. We have come to close, ladies. I'm happy with the engagements that we had. I'm just hopeful it has contributed something in your side as well. You enjoyed the interaction and the contribution that you both gave to each other. And I'm hoping you did gain something in our discussion.
Yeah, it made a very huge difference. There's a lot of things that I've learned from this session, so thank you.
Yes, I also believe that I have learned a lot from this session. I got, and like, I think it was an advantage that most people didn't attend, because we got a chance to express what we know. If we were a larger group, we were not going to get a chance. So it worked in our favor.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of this evening and the night until we meet. Thank you.